Well, hello, and thank you once again for joining us here on India on 99.94. I'm your host, Nikesh Ragani, broadcaster, journalist, and commentator based in the UK. Sarah Waris alongside me, as always, of Wisden. And Sarah? We've got to start with the first ODI, India men versus Zimbabwe, the tour that we spoke about in the previous episode. And as expected, it wasn't much of a contest in the end, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't even a surprise. 10 wicket win, easy win. Um, you didn't expect anything different, so yeah, good start with the tour.
What have we learnt, though? I mean, we spoke about a couple of the players who might be using this tour to show the selectors that of their worth, really, going forward, both in ODI cricket and particularly T20 cricket with the World Cup on the horizon, albeit a different format. KL Rahul was one we spoke about, looking to get his place back in that T20 side. He's been out injured. There's been players who have stepped up and have done well in his absence. Does he merit a recall? Well, he didn't get a bat today. We saw some of his leadership, obviously. He's captaining the Indian side out there in Zimbabwe in the absence of a lot of the big boys, really. Deepak Chahar we did speak about as well as being another one who's been out for some time and out of favour, out with injury. He's back. He took 3 wickets. Akshar Patel did what he always does. Shubman Gill at the top of the order. Has he done himself even more good with that not out and that partnership of 192 it worked out in the end between himself and Shikhar Dhawan? Who are the performers really who we should be taking note of? And do we need to take this with a pinch of salt? It is Zimbabwe. It's modern Zimbabwe. We're not talking about the Zimbabwe that used to cause India problems back in the day when they had some world-class players. This is not the same side. Do we take it with a pinch of salt? And even if we do, who are the performers that impressed you? Let's start with Deepak Chahar. What's his takeaway from this first match?
He came back with a new action. He was back to his swinging best. It was a very good comeback, you'd say. 27 runs, 7 overs. Took 3 wickets. Right, put himself right in contention. For the T20 World Cup team. I don't think this series for Chahar as much is about proving himself. He's proven himself. This is about coming back to fitness, proving if he is fit enough. This is what the series is for Chahar, proving his fitness. With Gill, he's been doing very well. He did very well in West Indies. But as you said, because Gill will probably get chances against these weaker sides, you don't expect him to play England when the top guns are there right now till the World Cup next year. So he's been doing well, but then you again have to think about, that all these performances are against weaker teams. So once the World Cup ends next year, Gill will probably be in the first choice 11. I'm hoping. But then again, he will have a purse of performances against these weaker sides. So how do you measure his records, so to say? That is, worth thinking about.
Yeah, and in terms of the batting, look, we didn't get a proper look at the rest of the batters. You mentioned Shubman Gill there. Shikhar Dhawan, again, we spoke about him and the fact that the only reason he's probably still in the reckoning for India is just with a look ahead to that 2023 World Cup on home soil. And he's potentially still the best ODI opener alongside Rohit Sharma to fill that slot. He's certainly in the driving seat at the moment. They've got all these records which they've broken over the years, and it's only Greenwich and Haynes and Sachin and Ganguly and Ponting and Gilchrist who've got better records than... sorry, not Ponting, Hayden and Gilchrist, who've got better records than them as openers in ODI cricket history. So, you've got to give it a chance. He's still batting well, as he's shown once again, as he showed glimpses of against England earlier in the year. I'm just going to go off on a slight tangent here. for a second, right? India won the match. It's all pretty easy, as expected. You know, the people who we expected to perform did, and so on. There's one man who's not been in the India ODI setup for many years and played a handful of games at that, is smashing runs for fun just down the road from me, Cheteshwar Pujara. I just want to talk about, look, he's probably never going to get a call up into India's white ball sides. He might not even get another test call up for the rest of his career. But it's great to see him in coloured clothing, first and foremost, in the bright pink tops that Sussex wear in the Royal London One Day Cup, which is the 50-over competition here domestically. It's running alongside the 100, so it's kind of been shunned into a corner a little bit, and all the best players from county cricket, supposed best players, have been taken out and put in the 100. So, all right, the standard might not be there, but Pujara, look, he averages over 55 in List A cricket as it is, and, third only, I think, on the list of all time List A averages for people who've batted over 100 innings, and the only two men above him are Babar Azam and Virat Kohli. So, he's got a bloody good record. He's smashed 174 from 131.
22 runs in 1 over.
22 in 1 over in that one. He got 107 off 70-odd balls in the previous match. He got a 14 not out off 7 balls, so striking at 200 still for that little not out. He got a 63 at better than a runner ball. And the only one he didn't do better than a runner ball was the previous game, the game they played yesterday at the time we're recording now. And that was still a 49 not out in a very low run chase on a difficult pitch, 228 they were chasing. And they got there thanks to the captain, who was captaining as well, Cheteshwar Pujara, 49 not out on a difficult pitch. And he's just scoring runs for fun. He's enjoying his cricket. I mean, is there an outside chance? I mean, I'm probably saying it in jest at the moment because I probably know the answer, but let's just take a moment to appreciate Cheteshwar Pujara and his List A capabilities. It's outstanding stuff, and I assume people in India have been talking about this as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Not only obviously List A, but even in county first-class games, he was in brilliant form, and you were kind of hoping that he'd get that form into the 5th Test match against England, which happened, but that wasn't the case. He scored 13 and 66, but you
second
were
innings
hoping,
was, looked a bit more solid, didn't he?
Yeah. So he's, one of those surprise performers. Years later, you will be like, who has the third best average? In a quiz, his name might just pop up, and who has the best, one of the best List A averages, and you'll be surprised to find Pujara in that list. It's something you can't probably explain why he's been so successful, especially like when you regard him as a test specialist. But yeah, it's good for him, and
but he's not going to get called up, right? He's not in contention for the 2023 World Cup. Come on, selectors, pull your fingers out. Give him a chance. He should have been on the tour of Zimbabwe, or the next time they tour one of these countries. Just stick him in for a bit of fun, right? It's one play. See what he can do, right? See what he can do back in the India blue. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah, his last ODI was in 2014. So, it's been too long. He just played 5 ODIs, scored 50-odd runs, averaged 10.
They weren't consecutive ODIs
his strike
either,
rate
were
was
they?
39, though. So in ODIs, his strike rate is 39.
Yeah, a few nerves, early on in his career. I've got to admit, I've got a massive, more than a soft spot for Cheteshwar Pujara. I've got to know him a little bit over the years as well. He's been over on various stints in county cricket, and obviously has toured a couple of times with India, 3 times now in his career. And, I've got to know him over that time a little bit. He's a lovely guy. And he's a cult hero, maybe not in India, I don't know. Obviously there are fans of Cheteshwar Pujara, but there's a lot of people calling for him to be axed from the Test side at the moment, given the current form and given what happened to both he and Rahane over the last couple of years. But that aside, you go to countries like Australia, even here in England, people just love him. And it's not for what he does in county cricket. It's just the international cricketer, the fact he can dig in and just play old school Test cricket. he's got all these funny, quirky mannerisms where he sort of runs without moving his arms. And, Virat Kohli's taken the mick out of him on various occasions for things like that as well. He's just an eccentric kind of looking guy, but he's a down-to-earth, nice family man, just gets on with the job. He's old school in this whole world of sort of modern, fast-paced cricket, scoring 350 in a day in Test cricket. He's just, you know what, I'm just in my own world. This is my world, and you live in it. While I'm at the crease, this is a Pujara world, and you are all just guests, and I'm just going to do my thing. And over so many years, he's been so successful. So look, whatever happens, he's probably never going to get a call for the India white ball side.
There was this very interesting anecdote, many might have heard of it, that when Josh Hazlewood during the Australia series, he returned back to the dressing room and there was a footage of Pujara on the TV, or like probably they were analysing his technique and all. And Josh Hazlewood was like, shut this down. I see him batting whole day out in the middle, and now I have to come back and see him batting on TV as well. And very funnily, Josh Hazlewood was picked in CSK last year with Pujara. Pujara was also in Chennai Super Kings last year.
Which was amazing, wasn't it?
No, Hazlewood, I don't think Hazlewood played last year. Yeah, he pulled out. It would have been fun to see both of them, in the same camp.
In the same camp, and it would have just been the camp. But you know what? Pujara, he's still got a medal for the IPL. He didn't play a single game, but he's got an IPL winners medal. So another quiz question for years down the line. Name all the Chennai Super Kings players with winners medals, and he will be one. And that will shock a lot of people. But, that was more, I suppose, a sort of lifetime achievement award, getting that IPL contract for that one season with Chennai Super Kings. Look, here's a bit of money. Thanks for all you've done for Indian cricket. Just come and have a bit of fun with us in the camp, and we'll see how it goes. You're probably not going to play. He didn't play in the end. And look, he did play in the early years of the IPL, of course, and he was never just this test specialist.
He was in KKR.
Yeah, he was at KKR. He played for KKR, and he's been on the IPL scene for a number of years at the start. And he wasn't just domestically, he certainly wasn't seen as just this Red Bull specialist, because I remember, for a start, he's a fellow Gujarati, so you support these guys a little bit more than you want them to do a little bit better than some of the other guys, just from a selfish point of view and that pride in your community and whatever. And I looked up his stats very early on in his career and followed his stats for the first few years. And his List A stats always impressed me. And I was always wondering, because he wasn't a complete blocker in Test cricket back in the day when he first came on the scene. He didn't score quickly, but didn't score that slowly as he has been doing recently. And I just always wondered why he wasn't given a shout in the Indian ODI side for longer. Just the 10 games,
especially when
like
India was struggling for a proper number 4 for the longest time.
Yeah. So I just wondered that with an average as high as him. Yeah, he played in Rajkot, which is a bit of a road, but give the boy a bit of a chance. And look, it didn't happen, but this is just, I suppose, me just wanting to appreciate Cheteshwar Pujara and everything he's given to Indian cricket over the years, and hopefully for a few more years to come in domestic cricket, in county cricket, and maybe another little whirl at the World Test Championship next year if India make it to the final, and in the run up to that as well. Just it'd be good to see him making some runs towards the end of his career. So that's the fantasy part out of the way. I don't think he's going to get a call up for that World Cup squad. But in terms of the ODI side then, India going forward, we'll talk about the FTP in a moment, but just going forward in ODI cricket, looking ahead to the next World Cup, have they pretty much got their 15 sorted? Are there any places up for grabs that you see? Let's talk batting and bowling, keepers as well. Are there any, you got Shikhar Dhawan, Rohit Sharma at the top, Shubman, Gill,
about
maybe
this, I'm not very, obviously Dhawan has done well. He's like ICC, he always does well in ICC events. But his strike rate, I think his strike rate is not the most attractive. In 2022 in ODIs, it's 66.8, which kind of, you think of it, it's brings resemblance to Mithali Raj's strike rate. I'm not going there, but you kind of, think of that angle. 66.8, especially with India adopting that wide ball approach, the new approach is not the best. And you kind of wonder if there is a place for KL Rahul to open. I would have wanted him to open today because he's been away for a very long time and get some game time before the Asia Cup and all that. KL Rahul, so when he batted at 5, Pant was not a certainty in the 11. KL Rahul kept wickets on most of the occasions when he batted in the middle order. There was no Hardik Pandya then. There was no Deepak Huda then. So, KL Rahul was drafted down to fill in the empty spaces. But now with a kind of settled middle order, you wonder if KL Rahul is a better option opening. I understand Dhawan has lots of experience
Where
and
does
he's done
KL
very
Rahul
well.
come in though? Do you just not play Shubman Gill then, or do you drop him down the order maybe?
I don't see Shubman Gill playing in the World Cup next year.
So if you are going to drop Shikhar Dhawan, that's what I'm saying. I don't
Yeah.
see it as well, but I would probably see Shikhar at the top with Rohit. But if Rohit's going to come back and he's the skipper, he's your best opener, he's going to play, then if you are dropping Shikhar, then you bring in KL, as you're saying, and then Shubman Gill doesn't find a place in the 15 at all. I mean, he's been playing well.
He finds a place in the 15, but 11, he can be an option at number 4, Kohli at 3, 4. Then there's Pant, obviously.
But you've got Sky as well to fit in there somewhere, haven't you?
Sky
has to play, surely.
Yeah, but for me, he's still, that T20. I feel T20I suit him better than ODIs. He has done, very well in T20Is, but doesn't have the greatest record in ODIs, So
he's not. I mean, look, he's only come into the side in the last sort of year, 18 months, hasn't he? So it's a little bit early but you got a guy in sublime form in T20s, and I get what you're saying. It's a different game. You've got to have a slightly different outlook and more patience and all those kinds of things. But look, the form he's in, I don't think you can ignore him. He's got to be in the 15 for me, surely.
Yeah.
And I'd put him in the 11 as well. Doesn't matter where. He can be floating. You can use him as one of your finishers, depending on the situation. Or if you get off to a really good start, you could probably stick him in at number 4 if you've got a massive platform to build on, but you've still got plenty of overs left. Stick him in, let him play his shots, because he scores in different areas. He's a 360 player. I know we like to use that term over and over again, but he is an absolute 360 player. The ramps, the reverse ramps, the drives, the pulls, whatever. He'll just play any shot in the book. He'll look to put bowlers off their rhythm as well. And India have a lot of proper players, don't they? Rishabh Pant aside, maybe Sky aside, you've got Rohit, you've got KL Rahul, you've got Virat Kohli, you've got Hardik Pandya even, who scores in certain areas. He's got his set pattern usually. Shreyas Iyer as well. So they're very technically correct. They're proper batters. They're not rampers. They're not scoopers. They're not, charge the fast bowlers too often and all that kind of stuff and score in awkward areas. So you need more than just one of them in your side, I feel. And you've got Rishabh Pant, yes, but it can't just be him. You've got to have somebody else. Even in ODI cricket, I know it's a different game, but you've got to just have that little bit of difference, I feel. And he can play properly as well. He's done it on a number of occasions. He can play beautiful, textbook shots as well. But then when you're finding it difficult to score, he can innovate and he can keep that scoreboard ticking. And that is part of this new philosophy, isn't it, of Indian cricket? So for me, Sky has to play. But then I suppose it's who misses out. And we'll have plenty of time
There's Huda
to talk
also.
about that. Huda, yeah.
I somehow have a soft corner for Huda. He's done well in whatever chances he's got. So probably, as I said in the last episode, he fills in so many gaps in your side. He can bat in the top order. He can bat in the middle order. He can bowl a few overs. None of India's top 4 or 5 besides Hardik Pandya, can bowl. So, Huda gives that option even if he bowls 4 or 5 overs in a match. It's kind of a luxury to India. So, yeah, he's there also. I agree with your point on Surya Kumar Yadav. There's still time to go for the 2023 World Cup. So, more than a year away. So,
I
I'm
mean,
hoping
yeah,
that he can,
they've not started planning for
be more
that.
consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, in a concrete way, they've not started planning for that. They're giving opportunities to lots of players, and
Yeah.
we understand that. But we're just looking at how things are shaping up ahead of that, given that they're playing
I
an
just
ODI
have,
series right now.
yeah. I was just thinking about, Gill has been given an extended run, but Gaikwad, he played a few T20Is. He's yet to make his ODI debut. So, do you think they should give him a go as well, or do you think that Gill has been locked in and he's been, seen as the backup opener, so to say?
Yeah, I think they might give him a go, and he's again got a great domestic record, and lots of people have been calling for him to get
He
an
has an
opportunity.
average better than Pujara's, list
Yes,
average better than
but he hasn't
Pujara's.
played 100 innings though. That's
Yeah.
that's the landmark that we were going for. Pujara has
Yeah.
done it over a long period of time. You can't all be a Cheteshwar Pujara in list day cricket, can you?
Yeah.
But look, they will give Ruturaj Gaikwad an opportunity, I feel, before that 2023 World Cup. But it's difficult, isn't it? Because we've just reeled off all the batters there, and there's just a massive list. There's too much talent almost, which it shows at the moment. You've got one squad playing in Zimbabwe. You've got an almost completely entirely different squad for the Asia Cup, which is seen as your stronger squad. But in both sides, you've got so much batting talent that you could pick from any one of these guys really for
Yeah.
those World Cups, for both T20s and for 50 overs.
Prasidh
Is
Krishna, I'm assuming, will be in the 15-member
Yeah,
squad,
you'd think so.
for the World Cup,
Yeah,
50-over World Cup.
I think maybe for both. Maybe for both. They seem to like him, don't they? And he's done
Yeah.
well. Can be a little bit expensive at times when he's not quite in his rhythm, so that might be a concern. Bumrah will definitely be in there, obviously. Harshal Patel, probably. Saying that bit
Yeah.
of sort of. I'm not 100% sure, but it seems to me that again they've got a big soft spot for somebody like a Harshal Patel. I don't know if that
Yeah.
comes from the fact that Virat Kohli's there, and he's sort of spent a bit more time in the Indian camp than some of his contemporaries may have done had they not played together in the IPL. And look, he's done well whenever he's been given the opportunity. But then you've got Harshal Patel, you've got Avesh Khan, Prasidh Krishna, all vying.
Siraj, Shami.
Siraj. Shami will be in the
Shami
ODI side,
will
you
be there.
feel?
Yeah. Yeah.
T20s, I think he might be done now, which is fair, I would say. And we've discussed that again previously. Look, he doesn't need it. He can be expensive towards the back end of the innings. He's good with a new ball, gets hammered usually at the end, just bowls that nice length, hasn't got the Yorkers, the variations, and maybe this right skill set for bowling at the death in T20. So where do you use him? That could be a big concern.
Yeah.
But it's between the likes of Avesh Khan, Harshal Patel, Prasidh Krishna maybe for a spot. Maybe Bhuvi comes into the T20s. Not sure about the 50 over stuff. But it's shaping up nicely. I want to talk about the spin department though, going forward in ODIs. Is it just back to Kuldeep and Chahal? Is that the way they're going? I mean, Jadeja seems to be in there at the moment in the ODI thinking, and it's T20s. We'll go with Kuldeep and Chahal. In ODIs, we've got to play Jadeja and maybe Chahal as well. They both spin the ball the same way.
Yeah.
Jadeja not as effective in white ball cricket as he is in red ball cricket with the ball. Can keep it tight, but not a wicket taking threat. Can be expensive at times as well because he's the kind of bowler who, once he starts going for a few, he'll keep going for a few. It just seems to always work out that way with Jadeja. But such a valuable batter in that lower order, and such a valuable fielder, and just a senior player and a man to have around the camp as well. So do you think they'll stick with Jadeja as far as their best ODI side goes, or maybe there's a chance for Kuldeep to sneak in there and they've got to find another way to strengthen the batting?
Yeah. Jadeja, as I I'm not the biggest fan of Jadeja in white ball cricket. Even T20Is, his this year I think he averages over 43 in one of the formats. I don't really
ODIs, I
like.
believe it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So which is not that which is the highest among all spinners that India have tried this year. That is why I think they've been forced to go back to Ashwin, giving him the call up after so many years. Uh, Suddenly last year there was this influx of spinners coming in. There was Rahul Chahar, there was Varun Chakrabarti. Yeah, in T20Is, but after a few matches, they're nowhere to be seen. India's strength
T20s though, you
was
feel I
yeah.
know they still give him an opportunity but in terms of their best side, if they're going to play two spinners, they play Yuzi Chahal and Kuldeep Yadav, right?
Yeah.
That seems the way they're going, and then
Yeah.
Jadeja becomes your batter who maybe
There
can
can be
roll his arm
Akshar
over.
Patel. Akshar has like made a lot of improvements recently. Uh, Probably they're giving him, and he's done well with the bat also. So they are probably giving him that opportunity to possibly fill in Jadeja's spot, or just be an extra spinner in the side and strengthen the batting
Look,
order.
with
So
all due, look, I love Akshar Patel, and I think he's a brilliant cricketer. But if you're comparing
mm,
the two, I know Akshar Patel has been in better form with the ball in white ball cricket recently. But
mm,
come on, he's like a pound shot Jadeja, isn't he? Really, without being disrespectful to him. I mean, he's better
yeah,
than most other left arm spinning all rounders in the world.
no doubt. Yeah,
But if you're comparing him to Jadeja, Jadeja gets in every day of the week, as in white ball
yeah.
cricket. This
I'm
is because
just
of the all
talking.
round
Yeah,
package. And in T20s, look, they're pretty much sorted with the two spinners. They've gone back to the Kulchar, as they like to be called,
Ashwin has
the
also
spin
not done
twins.
very badly in.
Yeah,
So
you get the feeling he's a backup though. But in terms of the
yeah,
ODI side specifically, does Jadeja always play? I think he has to for the balance of the side. Where do
I
you
think he
stand?
does. Yeah, I think he does. I think he is at least a certainty in the 11 in ODIs. T20Is also, especially in Australia, where the pitches will not be as might not require two spinners in the side. So Jadeja is not the worst option. In ODIs, yeah, he is a certainty with the bat. What he can do, not many can do. Uh, but again, like there's some time for the ODI setup and the ODI 11 to ODI 15 to be confirmed. There's still a long time to go, fitness, form. So yeah, on
Yeah,
current form, I would have Jadeja in my side. Yeah.
let's see how it goes. I mean, yeah, as you say, plenty of time to build up to that next ODI World Cup taking place late on in 2023 as well. So there is time, but looking ahead to India's ODI schedule beyond that World Cup and into the next future tours plan, which has been announced as well, they're not taking ODIs as seriously as they are Test cricket and T20s. And there's been a lot of reporting in the papers about the future of ODI cricket, and lots of fans have been having their say in recent times. And here in England, like I mentioned, the 50 over domestic competition is running alongside the 100 because they just can't fit everything in, consecutively. They've got to have a clash somewhere. And it's the 50 over competition which has basically been pushed to one side. There's no matches televised at the moment. You can watch them on the county streams on YouTube and things like that. But in terms of Sky Sports, they're not showing any of that 50 over competition. It's all 100. The 100 has got its plus points, it's got its negative points as well, and that's not really for this podcast to discuss. We'll leave that to England on 99.94 to look at in a bit more detail about scheduling and all that kind of stuff. But just the thought process behind 50 overs is the least important. Let's just run that alongside the 100, which is our showpiece white ball event for the summer. And it seems to be the way that the world is thinking in terms of international cricket, that if something was to go, it might well be 50 over cricket. I mean, we were having this same conversation a few years ago. Then we had a great 2019 World Cup and everybody's back on board with 50 over cricket and how great it is. But is it just a World Cup where it's going to be important? Because India, in the future tours plan, they're playing the least amount of ODIs out of all the top sides. They're only playing 3-match series at a maximum as well, so nothing more than a 3-match ODI series. This from a country that just a few years ago was quite happy to schedule in like a 7-match ODI series against Australia just randomly because they had a month spare or 2-3 weeks spare in the middle of their summer or winter or whatever you want to call it. It's just madness to think that how quickly things have turned in such a short space of time. They're playing 38 test matches, which is only behind England.
The tri-series have returned, which I think, could be the future ahead. If ODIs are to be kept alive, I think tri-series offers a bit more competitive.
So who do India want to play in a tri-series? Because look, Ramiz Raja, quite foolishly, I think, sort of voiced this thing about a quad series with India, Pakistan, Australia, and England. How Pakistan, he felt, would get that over the line, I don't know, because obviously India don't play Pakistan outside of ICC tournaments at the moment. And, we'd all love to see it. And I've done an entire podcast series on it previously on Wisdom about the rivalry and the history of the rivalry. And it's great when it does happen and it's fantastic. And we all want to see that. But, I don't quite sort of see how he thought that would happen. But then it would be a case of England, Australia, and India, and because if India were offered any other option, if they're offered England and the West Indies, they probably wouldn't be as interested. I don't think they probably the fans might argue that they should be.
Yeah, probably if you play South Africa with a India player B team, that's how it's going to be competitive. Like, because India at full strength is just too good for most of the sides. So,
and even if they're not on their day, I mean, it's just the prestige isn't there, the money-making capabilities aren't there. If it's seen as the least important format outside of World Cups, then why would you bother? As great as it would sound, look, we used to love those tri-series back in the day, didn't we? They used to have them in Australia. The 2 touring sides would have the ODI series in the middle, the VB series or whatever it was called at the time. And then they'd play in a group stage and then they have a series of finals. And it was brilliant. The Sharjah tournaments going back a number of years as well, which kind of ended in the early 2000s. They were great. But I think the world has moved on. And if you're going to see tri-series, it'd probably be T20Is, if anything, because A, it's going to be more competitive because it's just that type of game where anyone on their day can put up a performance and beat anyone else. And also it's the money spinner, isn't it? It's a short turnaround, shorter games, easier to organise in a busy schedule. So I think that might happen. But in terms of ODIs, look, are you concerned that ODIs are slowly being phased out, or do you think there'll always be World Cups going forward, 50 over World Cups, and it would just be a case of we'll just play a little bit in between those World Cups and that's enough?
I think, if you ask a cricket fan right now to rate the 3 ICC tournaments in order, they would put ODI World Cup number 1, probably the T20 World Cup next, and Test cricket, World Test Championship last. I don't know if you agree with that rating, so to say. But that's my rating. Like, ODI World Cup has always been...
You said fans, right?
Yeah.
Is this fans like you and I who are sort of scholars of the game, or claim to be anyway, or is this just your casual fan? Because surely your casual fan would say, what's all this 5-day cricket? We don't need 5-day, we haven't got time for it in the modern world. We don't want to see World Test Championship. What's the point? I know you're proper cricket fan and you're sort of scholar of cricket will agree with what you just said, and I do. I love Test cricket more than anything else in the world in terms of sport. But would every cricket fan say that? Would they not? Quite a large proportion suggest that we don't need Test cricket anymore, because that's been on the chopping block a number of times.
Yeah, I agree. But I was just talking about, the ODI World Cup, so to say, like the three events. ODI World Cup, I think, like in my book, is the most prestigious trophy to win right now. And while ODI World Cup is like so prestigious, ODI cricket is like not many will watch a random bilateral series. They are not interested in uh, spending 8 hours and just watching one sided contest. They would rather watch a 3-4 hour T20 match. So ODIs are on their way out, I would think, because India, the FTP says so, not says so, like it hints, it's a subtle hint that ODIs, ICC is probably moving past it. As you said, India don't play any series longer than three ODIs. So it makes you wonder if you know what the future is for ODIs. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks quite bleak when you see India as the powerhouse of world cricket doing that, but we'll wait and see how it goes. I mean, Rohit Sharma's comments the other day were, basically, I don't want to see anything go. I want to play all three formats
Yeah.
of cricket as long as I
And
can,
on the
and that's
other
the way I
hand,
want it to go.
sorry to cut you in, but on the other hand, test matches which you say are kind of dying. India play like 38 test matches,
Yeah.
which is the third most. But out of that, 20 are against either England or Australia. And only two other countries play more than 30 test matches. So, kind of like the women's FTP, where test matches are not reserved but more like assigned to the bigger nations. We have seen that happening in the men's FTP also, where very few countries play over 30 test matches. So uh, test cricket will survive, but then I think it will be limited to very few teams, which it's a debate for another day whether it's the right step or not the right step. Countries will play,
Yeah.
but not very regularly, frequently.
Well, it's
Which
because
is
most countries make a loss when they host a test
Yeah.
match. That's just the simple economics of it, isn't it? If you're not England, if you're not Australia, if you're not India, you'll make a loss every single test match you stage. You'll make a loss because the TV revenue is just not enough. And it doesn't even matter if South Africa are hosting India for a 3-match test series.
which
They'll
has
still
become
make
two matches now.
yeah, which is down now, but as it was previously, earlier this year, 3 test matches, they still would have made a loss, but they would have made the money back through the limited over stuff, and then the TV rights covers the whole thing. If it was just a test series, even if it's India, there's not massive profits to be made. So you can understand the reasoning from some of these countries, or the majority of these countries, that look, we're not going to necessarily commit to playing as much test cricket as the other formats. You look at Bangladesh, though. Bangladesh have gone a bit mad and crazy during this this FTP, haven't they? 150 matches, way more than anyone else, and they're playing, I think, 58 ODIs, if I'm correct, or certainly more than
59.
59.
59.
So more than anybody else, by head and shoulders above anybody
Even
else.
Ireland play a decent amount of ODIs. They play 51 ODIs.
Yes, but with Ireland, you can understand that. Look, there's two reasons they need to qualify and play as many matches as they can for World Cups and things like that, and the more matches they play, perhaps against slightly lesser nations, the better chance they've got of maybe getting a World Cup place, given the Super League table or whatever they want to call it during the next cycle. So you can understand the fact that they don't play as many test matches. They've only got 12 test matches, Ireland. So, you kind of get that. They want to play a longer form of cricket, but no one really wants to play them in test cricket. Not many sides anyway, and certainly not for long series, or a lot of these will be one-off tests against Ireland. Maybe teams touring England will nip over to Ireland, play a test match, and then that'll be their preparation for the England series, something like that. So I understand that, but Bangladesh they've gone all out. They've put all their cards on the table. We'll just play whatever. So fair play to them. But they still see the value in ODIs, whereas India kind of going the other way as far as that is concerned. But you're right. Look, as kids, both you
India
and
play
I,
42 ODIs, which is the
yeah,
second least after South Africa.
it
Yeah.
is, and that is simply because of the 3-match series, and
And they play
whereas usually,
61 T20Is, which is also the second, which is the second most after
yeah,
West Indies. So
yeah,
you
and it's
see the
no surprise. But
contrast.
growing up,
Yeah.
50 over World Cup, as you say, that in the men's game, the most prestigious thing, in the women's game, the most prestigious thing, and the women's game, obviously, since maybe 2017, it's gained in more popularity, and the viewership has gone up. The TV companies are doing it properly. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, they're doing it properly. They're putting it front and center, and it's a proper ICC tournament, as would a men's ODI World Cup be. They're doing it in exactly the same way, the coverage and all that kind of stuff. So, still the most prestigious, I agree, in terms of white ball cricket, but you want to be world test champion, surely. Not that that would have been a dream for anyone growing up because it's only just
Yeah.
come in, but you just want to be the best at test cricket, right? That's how great sides are remembered. Do you remember, like, you might well do, but would your average fan remember like India versus Bangladesh 3 years ago in a T20 series? Not really. You might remember the
Yeah.
odd innings, the odd great performance or whatever, but you might not remember the scoreline of the series or what the scores were in the match. But if you speak to me about Eden Gardens 2001, I could probably reel off like stats and whatever. And
Yeah.
Harbhajan Singh's 32 wickets in the series, and that 8 for 84, and the hat trick, and Hayden's performances, and the Lakshman 281, and the Dravid 180, and the declaration just
Yeah.
after lunch. And you remember all the specifics about everything. The Sachin come on, and Ganguly's telling him just one over for you here, and just change of ends for our other bowlers. Tendulkar ends up taking a wicket, ends up taking 3 in that innings, 2 in an over, removes Gilchrist, removes Warren with a googly. I'm not just showing off, but that's because it was a great
Yeah.
test match,
It's
probably the greatest test
unfortunate
match I've
that,
ever seen. I know about
yeah.
it, whereas T20s and ODIs kind of all
Yeah.
blur into one unless it's at a World Cup.
That's what Ravi Shastri said. I don't remember. And he was the coach of Indian team. I
Yeah,
don't remember a single bilateral series
I don't blame him. I don't
I
blame him
played. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
why would you, right? It's not important, really. I mean, it is. You want to win, but once you've done your
Yeah.
job and you've won that series, you just move on, and you're probably playing like 16 of
Yeah.
these series through the year, and they just all blur into one in your memory. Whereas test matches, just everything
Yeah.
around it, especially when you're playing Australia, especially when you're playing England. But even,
England.
when we used to play Pakistan, the big ones where there's so much build up and hype and press coverage, and those are the ones you remember. So look, long live Test cricket.
It was, just one small, not incident, but everyone speaks so much of the 2001 test match. I was in Calcutta then. I grew up in Calcutta. My house was not even 1 kilometer away from Eden Gardens. And the greatest match ever possibly was happening. And I had no idea. I didn't know what's happening. I didn't know cricket, what was cricket then. So
You've seen it back,
unfortunate.
right?
But
You've seen it back since. I would
I have
have
seen
thought.
it, but yeah, the live
Yeah,
memories, the moments, yeah.
the moment, and I mean that was one of those incidents where I'm waking up 2:30 in the morning to watch all the build up, and then watch the
Yeah.
match itself, and skiving off school and whatever. It was just fantastic, and that is what Test cricket can give you that none of these white ball formats can. Others may argue that they can, and it's the future. But look, as long as you get dramatic Test matches, the ebb and the flow, you'll never be able to replicate that in white ball cricket over a 5-day
Yeah.
period and different conditions, and the ball starts spinning on days 4 and 5, and it's just fantastic. It's drama at the best, its highest quality, really, at the best of times. and long may it continue. And look, I for one would love to see ODI cricket continue for as long as possible, well into the next couple of decades. And I'm sure that as long as we have the prestige around the 50 over World Cups, that will be the case. It's just bilaterally, it might have to take a back seat, as is shown in the FTP, and we'll see how that all plays out, with India preparing first for this 2023 World Cup over the course of the next year or so. Before that, the T20 World Cup, of course. And, we're expecting them to smash Zimbabwe 3-0. They're 1-0 up at the time of recording. We'll see how they go in the next two matches, and we'll be back in a couple of days with a roundup of what's gone on in the series, what India can take away from the series, if anything, and who are the standout performers who might have just put their hand up and just put themselves in the shop window in front of the selectors. But that's about all we've got time for on this episode. Thank you very much for listening to us once again. And just before we go as well, do get in touch with us on social media. You can contact me at Nikesh Rugani on Twitter and Instagram, at Eswaris16 on Twitter for Sarah as well. Ask us questions. What would you like us to talk about? Tell us what you enjoyed, what you're not enjoying about the podcast. Just be honest with us. We want it to be as interactive as possible, and we look forward to hearing from you all very soon. But thank you very much for listening for now, and we'll be back soon.